My Daddy, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Martin Luther King Jr. III, illustrated by A.G. Ford. My sister Yolanda, who we called Yoki, and I wanted to go to Funtown more than anything. Well, kids, you know Daddy is working very hard so that you and all children can go to Funtown. But it's not possible today, Daddy would say. Maybe next week. But that week never came. You just don't want to take us, Yoki wailed. And finally, my mother explained. We were not allowed in Funtown. The rides and the roller coasters were for white people only. That's how it was when I was growing up. My dad fought to change that. At home, though, my father was just dad. He tossed the football with me, taught me how to shoot hoops, teased me, and played with me. He would lift me up and put me on top of the refrigerator. I imagined swinging from the ceiling fan as if I were flying in my own airplane. Then I would let Daddy catch me as I fell into his arms. Away from home, things were different. It wasn't always easy being the son of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What's your name? The two older boys asked. I don't remember, I said. I forgot. I knew it was wrong to lie. Why'd you say that, Marty? My mother asked. You know your name. It's your father's name. I knew, and I knew why I hadn't said my name. Because I was afraid. Some people didn't like my father's work. He was stirring up trouble, they said. My father never stole anything or hurt anyone. Even so, he was thrown in jail more than 30 times. He had the courage to stand up and say, this law is unfair. And sometimes he was arrested for that. Once, a neighbor was driving me home from school. On the radio, we heard that the Reverend Martin Luther King and about 80 other people had been thrown in jail. I was terrified. I ran inside my house crying and asked my mother, why did Daddy go to jail? What did he do wrong? My mother hugged me. Your dad went to jail to help people, she told me. Some people don't have enough to eat, or comfortable homes, or clothes to wear. They're not as fortunate as we are. Daddy went to jail to make it possible for all people to have these things. Don't worry, Daddy will be coming back. I carried her words close to my heart. A year later, when Daddy was arrested again, Yoki was afraid that he wouldn't be back for Christmas. This time, I was the one who consoled her. Don't cry, Yoki. Daddy will be back. He has to help people. He has already helped some people, but he has to help some more. And when he finishes, he'll be back. My father was not the only one in danger. Many people were hurt or even killed as they tried to change unfair laws. Once, as I marched in a protest, I saw a pretty lady with a bandage over her nose. My mother explained that she'd been attacked by a police officer. The marchers were peaceful, but that didn't stop people from trying to hurt them. Even police officers and fire people sprayed marchers with fire hoses or turned dogs on them. Later, a police officer came up to us with a huge dog that growled at me. I was terrified. It's okay, Marty, my dad told me as he took my hand, and I felt safe. My dad was not a tall man, but he always made me feel like he was a giant. I was never afraid when I was with him. No matter how bad it got, my dad never fought back. We must meet violence with nonviolence. We must meet hate with love, he always said. Nonviolence wasn't just for marches and protests. It was for home as well. On Christmas, my brother, Dexter, and I got toy guns for presents. Most of the other boys in the neighborhood had toy guns and played with them, and we wanted to be just like them too. But we knew that guns were wrong. They weren't toys, they were machines made to hurt and kill people. Together, the whole family took the guns outside, made a bonfire, and destroyed them. That night, as my brother and I watched our gifts burn, we believed that we were destroying all the hate in the world. One bonfire couldn't fix everything, but some things were getting better, like the law that kept Black and white children from going to the same school. When I was in third grade, the law was finally changed. My mother told Yoki and me that we'd be going to a new school in September. I didn't want to be the new kid who sat alone. Yoki felt the same way. We don't want to go, we complained. We don't want to be the only Black kids in school. My mother said she'd see what she could do. The day before school started, we found out that our 3 friends, the Abernathys, would be going with us to the Spring Street School. I was glad to have my friends and my sister with me, because when we got to the school, there were flash bulbs going off and TV cameras everywhere. Why did reporters want to talk to us? We were just kids going to school like everybody else. We were each in different classrooms. It was strange to be the only Black kid in my class. I felt like everyone was staring at me the whole day. One kid even made a nasty comment. "Wouldn't you rather go to school with your own kind?" he asked. "Why aren't you at your own school?" "We're all the same kind. We're all kids, and Spring Street is my school now," I said. My father fought for us to be just kids attending the same schools. It was what he meant when he said he dreamed of his children being judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. One school at a time, one child at a time, one heart at a time. That is how the world has changed. By reaching out to other people with kindness and compassion, my father was changing minds and unfair laws. He once said, "We have a power within us which is more powerful than the power of bullets." The power was love and faith. It was a bullet that ended my father's life, but it didn't stop his message. It didn't stop his work. My father was there to see me start school, but he wasn't around to see me graduate. I was only 10 years old when he was killed. I was so young when my dad died, but I'm blessed with the memory of a warm and playful man, and I'm reminded of him everywhere I go. There are streets and churches and schools named for my father in almost every city in the United States. And on the 3rd Monday of every January, we celebrate his birthday as a national holiday. These things honor his memory and keep his spirit alive. We must continue to change minds as my father did. We must continue my father's work for freedom and equality for all. It wasn't always easy being his son, but I'm so proud to be that son, and I'm proud to share his name. A book by Martin Luther King Jr. III.